That night, Hanoi was unusually cold. Not the cold of winter winds, but the cold of silence, the kind that appears just before a storm breaks. I remember that moment clearly. The clock had not yet finished its cycle, but everyone knew this would be the last night of peace. The lights went out. No warning, no explanation. In an instant, the entire city was swallowed by darkness, as if an unseen hand had covered Hanoi's eyes. Then came the sound of the resistance signal. One strike, then another. Slow, heavy, echoing off walls, slipping through narrow streets, traveling straight into the hearts of those who were listening. And then, a gunshot. Not a barrage, just a single shot. But it was enough. Enough to tear the night apart. Enough to tell everyone the truth. The war had begun. I stood frozen. No one screamed. No one ran. There was only the sound of breath being held, and hearts pounding so loudly it felt as if the enemy might hear them. Somewhere in the darkness, Hanoi was asking itself a question. Have we waited too long for this moment? No one wanted to take up arms. No one wanted blood to spill on the streets where they had grown up. But there are moments in history when standing still means kneeling forever. And the night of December 19th, 1946, was one of those moments. Before the war, Hanoi still believed in tomorrow. The streets were familiar. The markets opened at dawn. Ink-stained hands worked late into the night, printing leaflets, posters, words filled with hope. People spoke softly about independence, as if saying it too loudly might break it. We had already declared our freedom. The flags were raised, the speeches had been made, and for a brief moment, it felt like history had finally chosen our side. I was not a soldier then. Most of us weren't. We were workers, printers, students, fathers and sons who wanted nothing more than a normal life in a free city. Some were learning to read for the first time. Others were planning weddings, saving money, dreaming quietly. There was faith in negotiations, faith in words instead of bullets, faith that reason would prevail. We believed that if we waited, if we endured, peace would hold. But peace, we soon learned, can be thinner than paper. Foreign troops returned, not as guests, but as masters, reclaiming what they believed was theirs. Checkpoints appeared. Orders were barked in unfamiliar languages. Weapons were carried openly through our streets. Still, we waited. Every insult was swallowed, every provocation endured, because no one wanted to be the first to ignite the fire. At night, conversations changed, voices grew lower, windows closed earlier. Hope was still there, but it no longer stood tall. It crouched in the shadows, watching, listening, afraid to move. We didn't know it yet, but the storm was already inside the city. Tension did not arrive suddenly. It crept in, quietly, day after day. At first, it was small things. A patrol that stayed too long, a command shouted too harshly, a civilian pushed aside for no reason. We told ourselves it would pass. But then the shootings began. Not battles, just warnings. Shots fired into the air, into walls, sometimes into people. Each gunshot carried a message: we are still in control. The streets felt narrower. Every corner seemed watched, every step measured. And still we held back. We believed that restraint was strength, that patience would protect the city, that peace could still be saved if we endured just a little longer. Then came the ultimatum. Cold, short, final. Lay down your weapons, disband your forces, surrender control. It was not a negotiation. It was a demand written in the language of conquest. That night, no one slept. Families whispered in the dark. Men sat silently staring at walls. Mothers pressed children closer, as if their arms alone could shield them from what was coming. We understood then. Waiting had changed nothing. Every step backward had only invited another step forward from them. To surrender now would mean erasing everything we had claimed, everything we had believed, everything we had already lost. And so, when the order finally came, it did not feel like a command. It felt like relief. Because at last, there was no more pretending. The order came quietly. No dramatic announcement, no rallying cry in the streets. Just a simple signal, passed from one person to another. Then the power went out. Hanoi disappeared into darkness. In that moment, the city stopped being a place of homes and memories. It became a battlefield. Barricades appeared where shops once stood. Furniture, carts, bricks, anything that could block a road was dragged into the streets. Men who had never fired a weapon before now held rifles with trembling hands, not because they were afraid to fight, but because they understood what fighting meant. The first shots echoed through the old quarters. Walls shook, windows shattered, the night filled with smoke and shouting. We moved through alleys we had walked since childhood, now memorizing them as escape routes, firing positions, last stands. There were no front lines. Every doorway was a border. Every staircase a potential ambush. The enemy had tanks. We had the city itself. Above all, we had something they could not measure: the determination of people who knew there was nowhere left to retreat. That night, Hanoi did not sleep. It fought. The fighting did not feel like war. It felt like survival. Bullets passed through rooms where families had eaten together. Staircases became shields. Walls became witnesses. Civilians did not run away. They stayed. Old men carried ammunition. Women cooked in silence, then returned to tend the wounded. Children learned to recognize danger by the sound of footsteps and engines. Every house became a position, every family part of the resistance. We slept in fragments, minutes stolen between explosions. Food was scarce, water was rationed, fear became a constant companion. And death stopped being shocking. At first, every fallen body felt unbearable. Later, we learned to close our eyes and keep moving. Not because we felt nothing, but because feeling everything would have broken us. Still, humanity refused to disappear. Someone always shared their last piece of bread. Someone always dragged the wounded to safety. Someone always stayed behind to buy others a few more seconds. In the midst of destruction, we discovered something frightening and beautiful. A city does not survive because of its buildings. It survives because of its people. Conversational psychological narration. The order to withdraw came quietly, just like the order to fight. No one celebrated. No one questioned it. We had held the city long enough for the country to prepare, long enough for the world to understand that Hanoi would not surrender without a fight. Leaving was harder than staying. We moved at night, through the same streets we had defended, now stepping away from them. There were no goodbyes, only long looks back, as if memory alone could keep the city alive. Some carried weapons, others carried the wounded, and some carried nothing at all, except the weight of those who would never leave with us. Hanoi burned behind us, but it did not fall. We did not take the city with us. We took something else, its spirit, its defiance, its promise. The enemy could occupy the streets, but they could not occupy what the people had become. As we disappeared into the darkness, one thought stayed with all of us. This was not an ending. It was a beginning, paid for in blood. And one day, we would return.